I've gone ahead and written an example which uses a PHP page that receives information from an HTML page.
This video is brought to you by OppiePie's Academy.
You can see the PHP page up already in my text editor. In the browser, let's take a look at how the program works. So let's say the amount of a restaurant bill is $6.93. I click Submit, and we get 3 suggested tip amounts at 15%, at 18.5%, and at 20%. But I want you to notice here we've moved to the localhost 8888 tip.php page. So essentially the processing is done by this PHP page, and this PHP page on the server provides us with the result. So let's take a look at how this works. Here we have a fairly typical HTML document. In the HTML document, we have, first off, an H1 that just simply outputs tipping table. And then we have a form. The action of the form is pointed to tip.php, which is the name of our PHP page. The method is post. You'll remember from HTML there are 2 methods, post and get. We're using the post method here, which is actually the safer of the 2. The get method will put all the information the user types into the browser's address bar right here. It would appear like this. Amount equals, and then whatever the user typed. That's fine for this type of application. But if you have an application that's dealing with sensitive data, like credit card numbers or health history, you definitely don't want to expose what the user typed in the address bar. So we're using the post method here, and our form ends right down here. Inside our form, we're only asking the user for one single piece of information, and that's the amount of the bill. You can see the label for amount of bill, so that's producing this label right here, and then the text input. Type is text. We could have done type equals number here, would have worked just as well. And we're IDing this as amount, and you remember the ID ties the input field to the label field. So label here is for amount, ID is amount. So that ties these 2 together. But we also need in our input a name attribute. If we're going to be passing the values to a PHP page, the name attribute is important. So name is also amount. We could have made that different, but I decided not to. So you see name is amount right here. And then we have our submit button. And when the submit button is clicked, that's when the information is going to be sent to our PHP page. So we click the submit button and the PHP page runs. And you can see the results right here. So let's take a look at the PHP page. So in the PHP page, the first thing we do is we get the amount from the information sent. Now you notice we use what's called a super global here, and we're asking for amount in the super global. Where this comes from again is the HTML. If we take a look at the HTML, and there we go. We'll take a look at it like that. If we take a look at the HTML on top, this name equals amount. This value amount ties to what is inside our super global request. So essentially we're requesting from the headers that were sent to this PHP page the amount which the user typed in to this input. So that's assigned to a variable called amount of bill. Now with amount of bill, we're going to calculate the various results. So we then print using PHP suggested tip amounts, and we put that in H1 tags. We also print 15%, then a $sign, and then we concatenate. That's the concatenation symbol, that dot, in PHP. So what we're going to do here in the parentheses first is multiply the amount of bill by 15 to get 15%, and then round that to 2 decimal places. So that gives us a value that looks like currency. So first we multiply amount of bill by 15%, and we round to 2 decimal places, and then we display that number, and then a break to go down to the next line. Take a look at the result again. So we display 15%, a colon, a dollar sign. So all of this is produced right here. We then round our number and do our math to give us 104, 2 decimal places, and then break to the next line. We do the same thing again for 18.5%. This time multiplying amount of bill by 0.185, again 2 decimal places, and then finally 20%, where we round the amount of the bill multiplied by 0.2, or 20%. So that produces our result. Now, of course, we're doing a very simple version of a PHP backend. PHP backends can be used to do all sorts of things. Next chapter in the course, we're going to look at taking information and putting it into a database. But this information could also be used for example, to create a text file, to send an email, or sorts of other things. Oftentimes, PHP is used to tie in with an e-commerce platform. So we're just kind of scratching the surface here of what you can do with backend. And oftentimes, you'll be working with a backend that you don't control as a developer. You may only have the front end and the specification, and you're tying that to the backend. Regardless, you've seen how you can use an HTML page, send information to a PHP page, and then make calculations or whatever you want to do within the PHP itself.